Welcome into Emerald and Lilywhite. This is episode 42. It's been a minute since we've recorded. Life's been busy, lots going on. I personally had a baby about a month ago, and it's kept me busy as can be. So we apologize to those who regularly tune into the show that we haven't put out any content in a while. You can blame me for that, but we are back and we are ready to rock. Again, episode 42. We're inching our way to 50 episodes. Not always easy to slog out content around Spurs these days, right? But we're certainly gonna do our best. And all jokes aside, the three of us love talking Tottenham, so we're happy to be back to provide content as we approach a big game tomorrow. Actually, as we record on Wednesday the 16th. But before we get into tomorrow's match and the first leg of this tie, we just want to touch on Wolves briefly. So we're gonna do that. I'm your host, Scott. You can find me at Scott G. Bird. With me, as always, is my co-host, Max, at Going Limbs. Max, what's up, man?
Sup? Yeah, we haven't recorded since before the international break, and I think our expectations for post the international break were higher than what we've experienced so far because it's been just so bad for no reason at all at this point. The excuses are running out. Like, we have a full squad. Like, yeah, it's rough. It's rough right now.
Yeah, we're going to get into that. We're going to talk a lot of big picture. There's all kinds of conversation around Ange Postecoglou and stuff flying all over the media right now. So we got a lot to talk about. Before we do, want to bring in Robbie as well at Robbie_Light. Robbie, what's up, man?
Not too much. I had to do a quick Google because I was like, I feel like one of our youth players. This number 42. This is the Will Lancashire episode.
Oh, there we go. Track. The Will Lancashire episode. Thank you. Yeah, we
temporarily number 42 until whatever number he becomes later.
Hopefully the lad gets a squad number next year. We'll see. But yeah, well, this is the Will Lancashire episode, and kind of just reflective of just the meh of the season right now, right? That we're dedicating this to a youth player. High hopes for Will Lancashire. Don't get me wrong. But like I said, we want to talk about Wolves really briefly before we get into the Frankfurt of it all. Spurs fall 4-2 to Wolves at the Molineux. Wolves have kind of been a bogey team for Spurs, right? Over the past 4 or 5 years, to be honest, I would say they have taken more points from us than we've taken from them historically, again, over that length of time. So not terribly surprising. Probably also not terribly surprising considering how poor Spurs have been as of late. Max, I'm going to come to you. I mean, at this point, are we expecting anything from Premier League matches?
No, not really. Like, it's like to the point they're like, why even watch the games? Like, this is just so embarrassing and pointless. Like, I don't even know what to say. Like, I don't know, dude. I don't know. No, probably not. I'm just so like tired of these performances, and it doesn't seem like it's going away anytime soon. And I don't know how to fix it or whatever is going to happen with the team in the future. But no, it's really defeating. It's like there's no point in even watching these games. We're going to lose every single one.
Yeah, it was super poor. We had no progression, no patterns of progression, maybe is the way to say it, right, at all. We could not move the ball up the field. I've said a lot this season. Without Kulusevski on the pitch, we really have a hard time progressing the football, and that was very much evident against Wolves. Wolves played us off the park, and I said in a group chat yesterday that I'm in that bar United and Southampton, I think every team in the Premier League has played Spurs off the park this season, and that's extremely worrying, quite troubling considering that we finished 5th last year, albeit probably only because we did so well in the first 10 matches of the season, right? But we did finish 5th last season, and to see us stumble.
And Wolves is one of the 5 teams that are below us, 5 in the league.
Yep, good shout. And they could very well finish above us before this is all said and done. I wouldn't be surprised if they do. I think Spurs are probably bang on to finish 17th place this season, the way things look. If you look at the rest of the schedule, we won't get relegated. So there's that, right?
Thank God.
We are safe from relegation. We still have not secured 40 points, if I'm not mistaken, which is absolutely atrocious. 40 points, for those who maybe don't know, 40 points is kind of known as that level of safety. Once you hit 40 points, you're pretty much all but safe from relegation. We still have not done that. Again, mathematically, we won't be relegated this year, and that's really thanks to some teams below us just being super poor.
The worst teams in the Premier League history, pretty much.
Exactly. I mean, Southampton, no joke, no exaggeration, probably are the worst team in the history of this league. I think if I'm not mistaken, was it Leeds United who once finished on 12 points?
Sheffield,
thank you. Who once finished on 12 points.
With Ramsdale as well, by the way.
Oh, yeah, good job. Yeah. And here he is for Southampton doing the same thing. So, that the Arsenal never leaves you, I suppose. But, yeah, thanks to those three teams for being super poor to keep us safe this season. Robbie, when I look at the lineup, I'm thinking about what we're talking about here, lack of ball progression, all of that. The lineup comes out. I certainly wasn't super excited when I saw it. It's a back line of Spence at left back, Ben Davies at left center back, Romero at right center back, Archie Gray at right back. Okay, I don't hate that, right? Ben Davies is maybe the question mark. The midfield is Basuma, Sarr, Madison, and then a front three of Tell, Solanke, Johnson. What do you make of that lineup? Is there anything that jumps out to you?
Yeah, well, first, I'm doing a lot of statistical pull-ups here, so I've got some interesting things. Again, am in zero way excusing anything that's happened this season, but I am shocked to learn that Tottenham are 3 wins out of 8th place. If we had 3 more wins, we'd be in 8th. Just 3.
Yeah,
that's it.
It's a wild season.
So the table is a bunch of mid shit this year. Bad season for us to have a bad year, I guess, or a good season in some ways. Also, in case you were wondering, in the last 10 times we played Wolves in the Premier League, we are 3 wins, 2 draws, and 5 losses in the last 10 times, going back to December 2020. We have not beaten them since August 2022, and that was 1-0.
Dele Alli penalty under Nuno.
So just terrible. 2022, 2021, and 2021. Those are the only 3 times in the last 10 matches we've beaten them.
Bogeys.
Jan Vertonghen 95th minute header.
Oh yeah, good shout. Back post, I believe.
That was a great game. I remember that game.
Yeah,
we missed those days.
In terms of the lineup, I will say, I don't know. It's again, everything I say, I am in no way defending anything that's happening, but we finally rotated. People have just been screaming for rotation. Clearly, we're prioritizing the Europa League. We put out our shit for this round of games. Not all of our shit, obviously. Madison and Romero and, Vicario and some of our better players were still playing. But yeah, we gave people chances to play that haven't played in quite some time. We let Archie Gray play in his second most natural position, not his first, but his second. He's moving up the ladder, it looks like. So yeah, I'm not shocked in any way that we looked like shit and couldn't put anything together and couldn't string anything together. It's been 4 straight Tottenham managers now that when we rotate, we look terrible, and that's because we don't have a deep enough roster to rotate fully, and that's why our managers never rotate. So We're at this stage of evolution where Tottenham fans are arguing with themselves 6 months ago without even realizing it, that you were calling for this, you were begging for this, and now you're like, why the fuck did we do this? And we're in this cycle every 18 months with 99% of the other things that keep happening. But every question is, at this point of my Spurs fandom, is just going to be like, we're not changing. We're never changing. This club is never changing. We're not going to have a deep enough roster. We're not going to sign good enough players to have a deep enough roster to rotate. So when we have injuries, we're going to stink. When we rotate, we're going to stink. When we hire managers who need to switch things up around, we're going to stink. There's just no answer to any of these questions. And yeah, like I said, I'm just starting to notice this pattern of now the fans are arguing with themselves over and over of like, 6 months ago, you were begging for this and now we're doing it. And you're like, what the hell are we doing? So I think that's just where I'm at. I'm on record on this pod, and Scott, you were kind of with me too. Like even 5 months ago, I was like, screw the league. I don't care about the Premier League anymore. Yeah. I was already like, dude, it doesn't matter. I think, we'll be getting to this later, but the sentence I prepared in my mind before this podcast is Ange Postecoglou's career is on a 1-game Europa League match contract from here on out, the rest of the season. He's 100% Europa League match away from getting fired, and that's all that really matters. If he wins the Europa League, he's not getting fired. We could lose.
Can I drop a take? Can I drop a take right now?
Sure.
If he wins the Europa League, I think he leaves anyway. That's my take. Book it.
So you're saying he resigns or he's
okay.
Yep. Okay.
I think he resigns even if he wins the Europa League.
I don't think that's a super hot take. I think it's a warm take for sure, but it's pretty obvious that he's at his wit's end. I mean,
I think he hates it here. Dude, I genuinely think he hates it.
He's out of character big time from what we saw he's popping off at everything that happens right now.
I think 99% of his attitude is 100% fair. Like, this is the reality of being in a Tottenham position. Like, he said the exact quote, "It's you can take gold and turn it into shit only at Tottenham." And that's exactly what this is. And we're repeating the cycle every 18 months. Like, I'm getting sick of it. Like, I'm getting sick of Tottenham fans. I think 99% of Tottenham fans stink and they're annoying and they're ruining this club. And it's all the ultimate blame, we all know, is with the board, but that is something we as fans cannot change. So there's a lot that needs to change from your expectations as a Tottenham fan.
Well, interestingly enough, we are going to talk about some changes at the top of the club that have been reported, and we're going to get to that in a little bit. I think it's interesting enough to have a conversation around, right? We'll get to that for sure as we talk big picture, but I want to jump into the Europa League stuff. Robbie bridged us to Europa League, and I think it's time to talk about the Europa League. Last week we play at home to Frankfurt. We draw 1-1 in the first leg of the quarterfinal. I think there's kind of a mixed bag of emotions as to how people felt this match went. First and foremost, in my opinion, the result's not good enough, regardless of what the performance looked like. And I think Spurs fans, at least through my 13 years of being a Spurs fan, I've seen a lot of performance over result, to dare is to do. But then when the results aren't there, people are pretty upset, right? We went towards more of a result over performance with Mourinho and Conte. Conte drug our sorry asses into the top four with a really poor squad. Let's not forget, right? I think Conte getting top four is equivalent to anyone else winning the league with what he had to work with, right? So let's not look past that. But I don't think we're at a point personally where we can say performance is more important than results. Results get trophies, performances do not, right? So let's just say that the result, in my opinion, was not good enough. 1-1 at home against Frankfurt, who plays in an absolute cauldron over in Frankfurt. They are going to bring the heat, that fan base for sure tomorrow when we play them. Do either of you disagree with me? Is the 1-1 result good enough, or did we fall short?
No, it's a shit result. Like, we should have won that game based off their performance. Like, I thought it was one of our better performances I've seen recently, but it's just the same shit, dude. Like, can't finish, like, just like fall asleep and concede an early goal. And then just we have some push for momentum early second half, and then by the time it's time for changes or time to like push to get a winner, at least in my opinion, I thought we should be getting a winner. Like, some fans are okay with like a 1-1. I don't understand that at all. They're like, yeah. Like, me and Keegan were debating in the chat. I was like, dude, you can't bring on Sarr for Madison and then be okay when we draw 1-1. Like, we're going away to Frankfurt. It's just unacceptable to me. I just don't get it. I just don't understand. I'm at such a loss with what Ange is doing, like, tactically, like, in game. And I understand that we don't want to concede. Like, we want to preserve at least like a fighting chance, but I feel like at home you have to go for it there. And we honestly didn't like do anything substitution wise to bolster our attack, more so taking off like a purely creative attacking player like Madison for a more balanced player like Sarr. Just can't say I'm a fan of that change. And Robbie pointed this out, like, we played so well from like the start of the second half to like the 60s into the 60s that he didn't make changes until the 80th minute. And I think despite what's happening on the pitch, like, once you start seeing signs of it going, like, we got to get up off the bench. We had so many dynamic players on the bench. Tell Moore, Odebear, I believe, was on the bench for that game as well. Richarlison, like that's 4 players that can change the game from an attacking perspective. Mikey Moore hasn't touched the pitch in like 5 months. Like I honestly feel sorry for the kid.
Yeah.
But it's just not good enough. Like, no, I'm not okay with the result. Although I did think it was a half decent performance, I just wish that we could go into Frankfurt with at least a 1-goal lead, but that's not the case.
Yeah, I want to talk about the result the performance, and I'll come to Robbie for that because I don't think it was a horrible performance. I think I would say about a third of the match we played really, really well. A third of the match we looked okay, and then a third of the match we didn't look great. So an improvement, all things considered, if we're looking relatively at what's been happening at Spurs, right? So I guess my question for the resident vibes guy, Robbie, is do you think that there's anything to the idea that Ange is maybe losing the locker room a little bit? And I say that because we look really flat in these meaningless Premier League games. And all of a sudden in these Europa League matches, we have a bit of a spark, right? And that tells me that, again, speculation here, that maybe the players perform better when there's really something to chew on and to play for. I think if you have the locker room as a manager, that's enough to play for right there, is for your manager and the progression of the team and the idea or the ideology, we could say, of the football, right? That seems to be gone. So knowing how well we played in a match that really meant something, do you think that maybe he has lost the locker room a little bit?
Honestly, I have a hard time believing that because all we see is players coming forward saying, we fucking love Ange Postecoglou. Mickey Van de Ven today, I got an ESPN alert.
Yeah.
Mickey Van de Ven saying, we want to win this for Ange. Like, we're so excited to win this for Ange. Mm-hmm. Sure, maybe there's a few. The obvious answers would be James Maddison and Romero. Maybe those guys he's lost or lost in some way. I don't know. But my broader point on Ange, which I've said multiple times on this podcast, is that I don't think he micromanages players in that way. He builds a locker room so that the players manage themselves and hype themselves up and get themselves prepared. And we just don't have those leaders, though. Like, that's the problem, is we don't have those leaders. You know, I don't know. We definitely need to sign some outside folks that are born leaders, but like, yeah, we need to be giving more leadership responsibilities to someone like Kulusevski or, you know, maybe even Van de Ven. I don't know, people that are, I guess, especially Vicario. That's someone I've been on the train about all season. People who actually seem to give a shit, that would actually do something. Like, again, I hate to be hard on Son, but he's just, I think, one of the most disastrous captain choices we could have had now that we've seen almost 2 years of him as captain, seemingly doing nothing to be a captain. I mean, he leads by example, but he's the quietest, least outspoken person. He's a nice person. He seems to, you know, get people's spirits up or like make people smile. But like in that, if we're down 2-0 at halftime, I don't think Son's the one standing on the bench giving a speech. You know, no. I don't like who's going to be doing that. So I think that's I don't know. It's, you know, I'm not trying to lessen anything off of Ange, but I think that is part of the problem. Is his entire mentality is, I want to create this tribe of warriors who want to fight for each other, and we don't have any players on the team that want to be like the tribal alphas or the leader, you know, but that's not what he does. Like, Ange doesn't want to be the manager that has to be like Conte is a good example. Very clearly, Conte had his hand in every player's back pocket and was telling them to do exactly everything the way he wants them to do it. So I just don't think and maybe it's youth as part of the problem. We just have way too many young players. But again, we have to know our circumstances as fans and as ownership and as manager appointments. If we're going to have all these young players, they need people that are going to lead, and we don't seemingly have people that can lead. So I'm taking some of that off of Ange in that way of like, I don't know. I think his managerial style since day one, and he was very open about it, is like, I'm trying to create this community of a team where they kind of build their own society, Lord of the Flies it in some ways, you know, figure out who's going to be the leader. And I don't think we have those guys in the locker room, and maybe Ange is so stubborn he won't be the guy that does it. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. I'm not saying Ange needs to change his philosophy as a manager and start micromanaging every single player. But I think that's where we're at.
Yeah, I have a good buddy who's been very pro Ange, who told me last week that he believes that the team needs a little bit more structure. I think we're full of teenagers who just, in my opinion, aren't mature enough to operate in that manner, right? And maybe that's some, you know, a miss on Ange's part. He also talked a little bit about how he handled the preseason poorly in a recent interview and maybe pushed the guys too hard at a time where legs needed rest, and it kind of spiraled into the season. Max, what's your take on that? Do you think he's lost the locker room at all, or do you side more with Robbie?
I don't think he's lost the locker room, but I would just push back on the Son thing. Like the amount of flack Son is getting for being not a good captain is just insane to me. Like I just don't get it. Like Ange is the manager. He's the leader of the team. And like Son's captaincy has just fully aligned with Ange's tenure. And I know Ange also gets a lot of stick, but people like who are super Ange in, like they love directing it at Sonny. And like, just like, I feel like it's not that big of a deal. Like and maybe that's a bad take. That could just be a terrible take from me. I just feel like these are professional athletes. Like every single one of them has like a mentality and a competitive spirit that like us normal people cannot fathom, because when you're at that level, like every single person is more competitive than anyone we know in our lives. And I just feel like it can't be that this team specifically has no like natural leaders that appear in the locker room. And I just feel like it starts at the top, and I get blaming the players for like on-field performances, but it's like we're blaming Son for stuff that we don't even see, or we're not even a part of. Like we don't know what he's saying at halftime. Like we can assume based on what we know about him, but he's getting like a lot of shit for stuff that like we have no information or like concrete data about, like how Son is reacting as the captain. Like maybe there were better captain choices, sure. Like maybe I'd rather have Vicario or Kulusevski or whatever, but the amount of shit that Son is getting for just purely assumptions, like that's all it is. It's crazy when we have Ange here and we know how stubborn he is. And I kind of think if he wants to have this certain like players like amongst themselves like rise up and create like a unit and an atmosphere where they push each other, that's fine. But once it's been 2 years and it's not working, maybe change something. Like Ange is the most like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it manager I've ever seen, except it's always broke and he still doesn't fix it because that's the way he wants it to be. So it's like, yeah, you can blame Son, but at the same time, then just change your strategy. Like this is how it's been. We've talked about countless times on the podcast. It's like no matter what, he's going to do what he wants, and it has nothing to do with the player's skill set, what would be best for the locker room. He's going to force this squad into exactly how he wants it to be on and off the pitch. And I just don't think that's working at all. And I think we have the results to prove it.
Yeah,
well, I mean, somebody said this in our group chat too, but like what manager doesn't do that though? Like every manager in the modern game is, I have a blueprint that makes me the best manager in the world. We're going to follow what I say because it's going to work. There's not really anybody else that does that. And I guess the examples people come up with are like Thomas Frank or whatever. And it's like, cool. Instead of losing 19 games, we're going to draw 12 and we're still going to be 8th and lose in the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup. Like,
but the thing is, it's like, never worked. Like Ange has never, like his system's never worked at a high level. Like genuinely, aside from August to October 2023, it hasn't worked at all. Not even like for a stretch. It's been like 18 months of just shit, like literal shit.
I do agree that if you look at our Premier League matches from that, let's say 11th game of his tenure on, it looks exactly like it has looked this year. Just tons of losses and draws, and then a few wins sprinkled in. So I don't disagree with you there. I personally believe that his tactics are done and it's over. I personally think the league figured him out pretty early. The system is very, very
like not
rigid.
even a system,
Yeah.
It's
like, I think that there isn't enough rigidness in terms of like the patterns that we're looking to produce. Like Conte just ran through patterns for an entire training session. The players
if you watch slots, Liverpool, like it's all patterns.
Yeah, same exact thing. 100%. Everyone knows exactly what to do anytime they receive the ball in a certain portion of the field, right? I personally believe that Ange's tactics are figured out and he's done. I just don't think it works. I think personally that he doesn't have enough experience at a high level to understand how to adapt, right? I think he's a good manager. I think he's a great man manager, right? But I agree with you. It hasn't worked in a long time. Now back to the Sun conversation. I always think that it's more on the manager than the captain, without a doubt, right? The manager leads the team. I'm somewhere in the middle of both of you, because I look at things like, I don't know if you guys remember when Hugo was still the captain. I think it was under Mourinho, and Sonny didn't make a run late in the first half, and on the sideline on TV, Hugo just blew up on Son, make the run for the team, and Son just looked like he was going to cry. Like there was no fight, there was no pushback. It was just like he looked really, really upset and kind of battered, right? And then I look after losses, and the camera cuts to Son, and he just looks really defeated and really sad, right? I equate captaincy to somebody who has a fire lit under them in those moments, rather than just kind of like deflated and uninterested in lighting his teammates up, or his or her teammates up, right? But like you said, Max, we don't know what actually happens. I do look at the first leg against Frankfurt. The fact that we conceded in the manner that we did, this is the biggest match in Ange's tenure, without a doubt, last week against Frankfurt, right? No question about it. And we conceded in the first 2 minutes of the biggest match of his tenure. That's massively problematic to me, right? You go into that match designing the plan, we could say, in a way that doesn't allow that to happen, right? But it's also on James Maddison and partly Cuti Romero. We're talking captains right now, right?
I can't blame Maddison for that.
I do, man. I think instead of moving the ball out wide, he tries to cut back inside, turns the ball over, and boom, they're in. And Cuti's defending was pretty lackluster.
It was fucking horrible, and so was Poros. Yeah,
100% agree. So I look at two of our captains.
I can never blame the attacker for losing the ball, like in the opposition third, when the guy who gets the ball is untouched until the top of our box. Like there is like supposedly 2 midfielders and 4 defenders behind Maddison after he loses that ball, and none of them got even within like 5 yards of the ball somehow. It was just incredible.
I'll give you that.
It's not a good, like obviously Maddison made a mistake, but I just can't believe that no one is stepping to the ball for like just a entire 30-second run. He was just running up the field. There was no one there. I feel like the Frankfurt player, Ekateke was like surprised how much space he had, and then he's getting to the back line and no one's stepping up. I don't know. It was weird. It was just a really strange play overall.
Yeah. I mean, I think my biggest thing is it's just that early in the match, just take the simple pass and don't try to do too much. And I think that's maybe what I saw from Maddison. But I also agree with you. Nobody closed the ball down at all. And Ugo Ekateke is really good, and he's honestly one of the hottest strikers in Europe right now.
He is quite
quick, pacey, really technical. So I'm not like super surprised that he was able to do that, but somebody should have been able to close him down. And I'll tell you what, Cuti Romero visibly is not interested in playing football for Spurs, in my opinion, at this point. I think we saw that in that play right there.
Against Wolves? Fucking horrendous.
Awful. Yeah.
And
awful.
And on the rotation point, like when you look at Wolves, like it wasn't even like the players that like rotated in that were making mistakes. It was like Romero, Vicario, Bergvall. Like our goals were coming from the players that have been playing.
Yeah.
So it's like it's all individual mistakes. Like it's just horrendous. And Romero he looks like he's completely finished with Spurs. I don't know what his relationship with Ange is, but it's quite disheartening to see the only winner on our team just visibly like quit on the team, essentially. Like the only player that's actually won something, I guess, besides Sonny with South Korea. But this dude's won a World Cup, and he clearly has no belief in the team or the manager. So it's just another thing that's just disheartening if you're a fan of the team.
Yeah. Hard to argue with that. Let's get back to the match. Like we've all kind of felt that Spurs played okay in that match. Could have done a lot better. but I want to look to the second leg. That's tomorrow. It is April 16th as we record this pod. April 17th, we are away to Frankfurt in the second leg of the Europa League quarterfinal. We all agree that everything hinges on tomorrow. There's no arguing against that. Robbie, I'm going to come to you. Maybe the first question is: Do you expect Ange to make any changes from the lineup that he put out last week against Frankfurt?
I honestly don't even know if I can name the full lineup, but probably not. I mean, I guess we have to know if Decky's healthy enough to play or not. If Kulusevski's healthy enough, I would expect him immediately to go in. Playing. So yeah, I would say absolutely Kulusevski somewhere. I guess I don't know what the answer is as to where he's going to play. Would love to see him there. I'm pretty sure Mickey's being rested for Premier League matches, so I'm assuming Van de Ven will also start again. Son didn't start last Europa match, did he? Because we know we know he's hurt and he's not playing. So he's out.
It has to happen, yeah.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement that, like, and again, it's just, I don't know. It's not an indictment of Dominic Solanke as a player as a whole, but like just hasn't been giving us anything, and it could be all the players around him to blame too. I don't know, but yeah, at this point, Richarlison's got some juice. I would want him to play.
Agree.
He's someone who seems like he gives a shit also. Sure. So even if he gets hurt all the time, he seems like he cares a lot. So yeah, Kulu and Richarlison, I think, would be people I hope make an appearance in the starting lineup.
Solanke hasn't scored since January 4th.
It's pretty rough.
That's insane. That is insane.
Yeah, and I think
April 16th.
Some of that, in my opinion, is on the tactics, and I want to talk about that a little bit more in the big picture conversation we're going to have. But I agree with you. I mean, I would put Richarlison out there. I'd give him a go. I think one of the things that I'm thinking about with this lineup is it's like I said earlier, it's going to be a cauldron over there in Frankfurt. It's going to be a hostile environment for sure. We need guys who have that dog in them, as the kids say these days, right? Yep. And I think Richarlison's one of those people. I also think you have to play Pedro Porro because of what I just said, and I think Spence has to be a left back.
Dude, if Spence isn't, and he rotated Udogie and Porro, so
I know.
I feel like it's a no-go for Spence, but like that's such a bad miss in my opinion.
Yeah,
it's just that he's got to play.
Yep. I agree. And I mean, Van de Ven will start. We can all assume. He did come out today and asked about rotation in that same interview Robbie was talking about, where he said he backs Postecoglou and wants to win it for him. He also said, you'll have to ask the manager why I didn't play against Wolves, right? So I don't know if that was – maybe we're just reading a little bit more into that comment than is actually there, right? But regardless, Van de Ven definitely plays. I assume Romero plays.
He's playing.
I don't know that I love that.
Because Kevin Danzo felt his hamstring like fucking a month ago. Oh, it's nothing. Like, dude, why does this keep happening to us?
Well, it's because we expect our players to produce more sprints than anyone else in the history of the sport with the system that we play, in my opinion, especially as those defenders.
But it's also like the lying about the injuries, like low-key. Yeah. The Odebear thing, like that's been a huge thing on Twitter. Like Ange, the leak, like I don't know if you guys want to talk about Ange is like, oh, we've got a leak somewhere because Paul O'Keefe reported Odebear like has a hammy problem. Ange says, nope, that's not true. Puts Odebear on the bench for Europa, and then Odebear's not in the squad against Wolves. Like, oh, okay, so you just like put Odebear on the bench for show or something to prove that there wasn't a leak, and then he actually is injured. Like, and then like what else? Van de Ven against Elfsborg just lied straight up. This Danzo thing, yeah, he'll be fine. He'll be back after international break. Nope, it's been like 4 games. He's not back. It's just like a circus over there.
Yeah, some of that could be the medical staff not giving him correct information, but the Odebear thing is super weird. I agree.
It's so weird.
With the leak thing, just don't say that, Ange. Like, I don't understand why he comes out and says that. That's
because he's a 5-year-old, dude. Like he just wants other shit to blame. It's constantly other shit to blame. Like,
I mean, that's kind of every Spurs manager, right? And that probably says more about Spurs than Ange. But I think that comment tells me that I don't know why I don't know what it tells me. I just don't understand why he said it. It really just shows that your house isn't in order, and maybe you don't spill those beans, right? He came out and said that it wasn't a player. Who knows? Maybe it was Odebear, right? I'll drop a conspiracy theory.
And
I don't
Paul has had these reports well before he was even here, bro. So like,
yeah.
Just like, I don't know, just ignore that shit. Like, and then the craziest part is that he put Odebear on the bench, didn't use him because he's like, nope, that's not true. He's not injured. And now, yeah, Odebear's injured. Okay, cool. Like what?
We're getting deep into the conspiracies here at Everyone and Lilywhite. We love it, man. We're here to just stir the pot for sure. Yeah, it's super weird stuff is going on at Spurs. When we look back to the lineup briefly, we've covered the back line. I think in the midfield, you've got to go Bergvall. You've got to go Madison. I think you probably have to go Bentancur at this point. I don't necessarily love that, but I think that's kind of where we're at. You can maybe throw Sarr in there, but Bergvall and Madison have to play. There is a world where
Sarr starts.
I mean,
if Bergvall wants to play 6 more.
I mean, I think Bergvall has to play the 6. I think he's the one. Who
I mean, I like Bentancur when he's playing 8. Like he had 2 headers that were like should have been almost goals basically last week. He was one of our only attacking threats like the whole match, in my opinion. So
but only off set pieces.
Yeah, for a guy who has the most head injuries I've ever seen, it's crazy that he loves to head balls like that.
It's his favorite thing. He's like the only player that scored headers for us.
Yeah. Well, and interestingly enough, he plays the 10 really well for Uruguay. So I think he's a very versatile midfielder. But I would expect Bentancur gets to go, and then up top probably Solanke. But it sounds like we all are interested in Richarlison getting the start. I think Odebear probably gets to go.
Probably not.
Well, maybe with the injury.
I think it's probably going to be Tel Richie Kulu. Or not, no, it's probably going to be Tel Solanke Kulu. I would go Tel Richie Kulu.
Kulu, yeah. No Johnson, you don't think?
I don't know. He was kind of disappointing. Like, he had a really good game against, who was it, Southampton?
Yeah, bagged 2 goals.
And then, should have had a hat trick. Oh, we didn't talk about that, but that was a big deal.
Southampton's too far in the past at this point.
Yeah. I just think they got to get Kulu and Madison both on the field, or if they don't, it's just, I don't know. You just have to. So it's either going to be like both in the midfield, which I don't know if that's a good idea right now, or Kulu on the right. But I think Tel's been in good form. I mean, he's bagged last 2 Premier League games. Not like, I guess, like not really important goals, but I like him. He's looked energetic off the left. I think he'll have a good go there.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Odebear is going to be off the bench, if anything.
Yeah, I mean, he had the only thing that makes me think if Odebear's fit, he gets a go is he played really well against Alkmaar in the second leg of the Europa League and really got us through the quarterfinals, which we played really poorly, but Odebear kind of drug us through. So I think there's a world where he gets to go. I also do think there's a world where it's Kulusevski as the 8 with Madison as the 10 and Bergvall behind the 2.
That would be great if we could figure that out, like our 3 best players.
Yeah. I know I've said how many times on the show that Ange's biggest challenge as a manager is figuring out how to get Madison and Kulusevski on the pitch at the same time and have it be effective. I think we've only seen that against Southampton the first time we played them, if I'm not mistaken. And I mean, literally, they're not even a soccer team. I think you can put out any lineup and be Southampton, right? So
really good against Brentford the first time they did it. But that was obviously in August. It would be sick if we had like Bergvall, Kulu, Madison, Tel, Richarlison, like Johnson or Odebear. That would be really sick lineup. But
yeah, I personally wouldn't mind seeing Johnson get a start. I think
I wouldn't mind it either.
Yeah, I think he's good for a goal. He's I believe our leading scorer when it comes to goals and assists, goal involvements. So yeah, shout out to Brendan. I think it's kind of a lackluster season, right? So maybe nothing super special, but Brennan's involved in goals, and that can't be overlooked. What do you guys expect to happen? Let's talk predictions really quick, and then I want to have a big picture conversation. But Robbie, I'll start with you. Are we getting through tomorrow?
No, we're not.
Yeah.
Brings me no joy to say it, but no, we're not.
Yeah. Max?
No.
Damn, you guys are killing me. Honestly, I'm going to mix it up and I'm going to say we get through. and I'm going to I'm going to say that it comes either in in extra time or in penalties. But I think we're going to drag ourselves through. And then I don't know what happens after that. I said recently that I could see Spurs getting through tomorrow and then losing to Bodo Glimt in the semis. I think that would be super on brand for Tottenham. Unfortunately. So we'll see. But yeah, I think we're going to get through. I think it's going to be 2-2 at full time. And then we either bag a goal at stoppage time. At full time, my goodness, I can't talk. I think it'll be 2-2 at full time, and then I think we maybe get a goal in extra time and potentially penalties we get through. I gotta throw some semblance of positivity out there before we wrap up our predictions, but we'll see. Again, it's April 16th. To those who follow the show, we appreciate everybody listening. You're gonna have a chance tonight and tomorrow morning to get a listen in before Spurs kick off. But we want to talk big picture, because I think that's probably the biggest talking point at Tottenham Hotspur right now. I think there's a lot of folks who feel we probably don't have enough to get it over the line when it comes to winning the Europa League. Maybe the first question I'll ask, and I'll start with you, Max. This is a very obvious answer, but hopefully it'll turn into more of a conversation. But we get knocked out of the Europa League. Is this the worst season in Premier League history for Tottenham Hotspur?
Yes, comfortably. Yeah. Like, not even close.
Yeah. Pretty simple answer.
Like, we're going to finish 17th. Like, we have to reckon with that. Like, there's 2 teams behind us. There are 2 points behind us, and play easier schedule and don't have to play during the week. So if we don't, worst season in Premier League history.
Yeah, sure. Robbie, Max and I tend to be a little bit more dramatic and off the handle than you are at times with some of our takes, right? But what's your take? I mean, maybe the question is there a world where we don't win the Europa League and Ange still has an opportunity to be at the helm at Tottenham Hotspur?
I don't know. It's hard. I think whether what I think or not, I think this club is just cannibalistic nonstop. The fans, the ownership, everybody destroys everything. And it's very clear Ange is sick of it and done with it. And I back him on that. He should be. Of course, he has his share of blame this year, but he was getting destroyed for things that, like, we can talk all day about how the entire Premier League is shit. I sent that screenshot of the Europa League. Every team looked like shit last week except for Bodo Glimt. It's like no one else, every other fan base is having these same discussions, but we as Tottenham somehow think we're special and that things are so much worse here than anywhere else. And yes, if you're talking about Liverpool and City, things are different there. Yes, 100%. Every other club is equally as mid and trash as we are in the Premier League for the most part. Unless you're in, I guess, Arsenal. I don't want to say Arsenal, but they seem to be transcending this year to a level they have yet to reach. But the other 17 clubs, it's all mid. It's all shit anyway. Everybody's struggling in almost the exact same way. Everyone's having a lot of injuries. Everyone's having managers. Chelsea's in 5th, and they're destroying Maresca right now. They're like, oh, he's so rigid and won't change his tactics. They're having the same argument at Chelsea right now. The fans were screaming something at the last game. I didn't see the full article, but fans were screaming about Maresca, and they won the game. I think it was just like every team stinks. The Europa League stinks. The Europa League stinks. It's another situation where Tottenham is in a super weak Premier League this year, and they happen to also be weak. That sucks. The Europa League, looking at the scores last week, seems to be very weak this year. And we're also being very weak right now. I mean, again, we're 1-1, so pumping the brake a little bit. If we were losing 1-0 or 2-0, we should be really pissed. Again, 1-1, absolutely disappointing. But Lazio, one of the favorites, if not the favorite, losing to Bodo Glimt at an 8,000-seat stadium in Norway last week to a team that's played 2 matches this calendar year. Every team is struggling, and this we can talk about this on another pod, and we've talked about it before, but fixture congestion is ruining this game.
Yeah.
Every team is mid, and every team sucks because they're playing 55 matches a year, and then all their players are flying to the other side of the world to play 3 matches every 3 weeks and then come back. That's what we're seeing with everybody. And again, yes, I agree with Max. This will be statistically the worst history season in the Premier League for Tottenham Hotspur. but every team looks like garbage this year. Again, except for like 3 teams who spend $1 billion on their players. Everybody looks like ass. So I do think we blow things out of proportion, but I think it's also true that Ange's time is done. I'm not saying that it's not. I think he's definitely run his course. I think he doesn't want to be here.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for his press conference, his Conte press conference, his Mourinho press conference. He's getting there. It's going to come soon, where he blames everything. I saw an article today, and this is going down a whole other rabbit hole, but suggesting that now that we've hired this guy from Arsenal, that Scott Munn's not going to survive this. Johan Lang's probably not going to survive this. So we're just changing everything again, and we're starting from scratch again, and we're nowhere closer to anywhere that we've been in 25 years. So it's just going to be the same discussion every 18 months until we die is what's going to happen.
Let's talk about that new CEO. I think it's definitely part of the bigger picture conversation we're having. For those who maybe don't know, I'm sure everyone does at this point, right? But Spurs have hired Vinay Venkatesham. I'm probably not saying that exactly correct, but Vinay Venkatesham as the new chief executive officer of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. The report that I read is that he will be in charge of all on and off field operations. Is actually a really big deal in my opinion. I think that could be us finally seeing Daniel Levy saying, "Okay, I have to step away from my involvement with on-field things, right? And off-field things, I think he's great, and maybe he'll still be involved in some sense. I'll come out and say off-field, he's maybe the best on the planet. I'm not even exaggerating when I say that.
NFL UK, baby.
He's phenomenal at his job off the field. Terrible on field.
Yeah, no, I'm reading what I've read about him. I like the idea of the hire, but it's unfortunate that we're now probably cleaning house again for the 30th time in this decade. I
mean, I think I agree with you there. I also think personally that maybe Scott Munn was never up to the task.
Agree.
When it comes to Johan Lange, I have mixed emotions. I think that
if you want a squad of teenagers,
go
on FM, look up Golden Ball list, and that's what he's cooking with.
I agree. Now, some of them have really hit. I mean, the way that he brought in Bergvall, the way that he brought in Archie Gray, Odeberg, jury's still out. The dude's played like 5 matches for Spurs, right?
He's good. He's legit.
He's
like even if he isn't like up to the task, I think we could still profit off him. Like he's legit good.
I agree. Now, I also really appreciate how Johan Lange operates in the shadows and nothing is ever reported until it's done. I think that's really important for Tottenham Hotspur because we are a team who historically has done a lot of scouting for other teams. Willian comes to mind, right, as a glaring example of that, how Willian was basically done medical at Spurs. Chelsea comes in, says Spurs have done a lot of good work on this guy. We're interested in what we've seen from Spurs. We can offer double the wages. Come on over to West London. And that's been historically what happens a lot to this club, right? So Johan has done a good job there. But me personally, I feel that the squad was built abysmally this season. I mean, the depth is absolutely not there. Robbie talked a lot about that. Our worst ever season in Premier League history, we all agree. The director of football and operations has to be responsible for that, right? Or the director of scouting operations, we could say, has to be held accountable to some degree to what's happened. I think he has to be at least cognizant enough to come out and say, we haven't built a squad that can compete for the now. And there's no balance, maybe, is what I've seen in the way that we've built the squad. It's great for the future, but I firmly believe that if we're only building for the future and not for the present, we're not going to get to that future that we're building for because things are really poor and those players aren't going to want to stick around and slog through this bullshit forever, right? So I think Johan Lange is somewhat accountable to the poor season we've had too, regardless of some of the great stuff that he's done. Now, this Vinay Venkatesham fella, the first thing that I really like about him is he is like solely responsible for Arsenal's women's team and building them up to where they are today. I mean, they're a powerhouse in Europe, right? And they play all their matches at the Emirates. And he was the one that came out and said, it's time for our women to play at the Emirates. Like none of this bullshit playing at training grounds anymore. If we want to invest in women's football, this is how we do it. So as somebody who's a big fan of the Spurs women's team, I really like that aspect of what he's going to bring to continuing to build the Spurs women's team. And I've argued, or maybe just moaned a lot about the lack of investment in the women's team over the last year or so. So I'm super happy about that. But he also is known for somebody who understands how to really put a project together. I think that's what we want at Spurs. We understand that a project is required, and we need somebody who knows how to really put one together, because look at what they've done under Arteta. They bought young and for the future, but they also bought for the now in a lot of ways. And I think finding that balance is something that he's done a really good job of. Now, my only question is, what's the wage structure going to look like? Because if we don't improve the wage structure, I'm not sure this dude can do much. That all remains to be seen. But yeah, I mean, do you guys have any thoughts on this hire? Do you know enough to have opinions yet?
No, I read an article on The Athletic about him. And again, what I read, I was like, hell yeah, sounds great. You kind of summarized a lot of it. And, people are making a big deal about the Arsenal to Tottenham reverse Sol Campbell, and it's like, dude, this is a fucking like venture capitalist in a business suit. It has nothing to do with.
And he's Levy's really good buddy of like decades, apparently.
Judas.
But I think, I don't like, this is where my mind was going while you were talking about it too, of like, he knows how to build a project, and it just goes back to like, I don't know, like Tottenham just doesn't ever hold on long enough in a project. And I'm not suggesting we need to with Ange, but it's just like, let's bring in a guy who understands what it's like to build a project while we abandon our project. Like it's just crazy to me that we're like, hey, we just signed 20 players in the last 2 years, and now none of them matter because we're changing everything, and we're going to hire a new manager who plays a back three and does, I'm just making up whatever's going to end up happening this summer. But yeah, I don't know. I think exactly to your point, and we've said this multiple podcasts, nothing will matter until we change at the highest level. It all starts at the top, is what you said earlier in this podcast. You meant the manager. It starts even higher than that. Like you got to go way higher than that at Tottenham. And yeah, maybe it isn't even Daniel Levy, maybe it is the board of Enoch, do we even know, other than Joe Lewis, the guy who's like a living corpse? Do we know anyone else on the board of Enoch? I don't know who else is even controlling these strings.
No idea.
It's a business to them. To use it as an example too, like that's insane to me that Madrid and Barcelona broke like 6,000 financial rules. We're on the verge of bankruptcy, and they're still in Champions League semifinals and finals, and they're winning Champions Leagues. And they're like, how do you do that? And how does that use Daniel Levy's excuse of, well, we need to remain profitable and have our structure, when teams are literally like taking out loans against their own equity?
Best academy in the world.
Like, it's crazy that this is happening. No one's even batted an eye. We're still getting on City. We're still getting on teams for breaking these financial fair play rules. We've completely brushed Barcelona and Madrid under the rug. We're like, we don't even care anymore. Whatever. Who cares? They won a Champions League last year.
There's no accountability financially in the sport any longer. We know that. So honestly, the only thing that's happening as in terms of our profitability is we're looking to sell the club. That's the only thing that I can think of. I think we're looking to sell enough of a portion of the club, because Enoch owns the club, but Levy owns enough of the club. I'm not going to be able to quote the number, but I believe like 38% or something of Tottenham Hotspur.
Yeah, I think Enoch owns like 86% of Tottenham Hotspur, and Daniel Levy owns like 30% of Enoch or something.
Of Enoch, thank you. That's right. That's right. Yeah. Or maybe even more than that. Like he may be the majority owner of Enoch, if I'm not mistaken. So I think Daniel Levy wants enough of a minority purchase to cash out and just say, like, I'm taking $1 billion and I'm riding off into the sunset, and I'm going to go back to being a Spurs fan. He is a lifelong Spurs fan, and I give him credit for that, right? But I think the only profitability hoodoo of all of this is that he's looking to sell the club. There's no other reason that we're so concerned with our profitability. I think only, if I'm not mistaken, like only 40% of our profit goes to wages, and that's the lowest percentage in the Premier League. Daniel Levy also earns the most of any chairman in the Premier League, right? So again, that tells me that he's not looking to be in charge of the club for a long time. And then we hire Vinay Venkatesham, and that tells me maybe even more so that a purchase is coming, right? So we'll see what happens. A lot of chatter about somebody from Qatar coming in and buying the club. That would just make me want to puke if that happens, right? I would really, really hate that happening personally. But Yeah, we'll see what happens. I do believe though that Daniel Levy is looking to sell a large portion of his stake in Tottenham Hotspur. That's the only thing I can think of. But yeah, we'll see. A lot to be seen there. Before we wrap up, I want to go back to the Ange of it all a little bit more. I think I was going to say, is it fair to say, and just generalize something? I won't. I'll start by saying I personally am firmly Ange out at this point. Max, it sounds like you're maybe in that same boat.
Yeah, dude. He's just a joke at this point, dude. Like, yeah, he's a joke.
Okay. I'm probably not like that aggressively upset with Ange. I don't fault you for being for what it's worth, right? But I just personally believe that he has been found out tactically. I don't think, like I said earlier, he has the experience required to adapt at this level. Now, what Robbie was talking about earlier, I had mentioned in the group chat for the listener that I believe the modern game is littered with managers who come in with their blueprint, their style of play, and say, this is the way to go, let's do it. And then they gradually build the team to be able to do that, where I miss the days of managers coming in and saying, here's my squad, this is the way that I want to set us up tactically based on what's available to me. The only two guys I can think of that do that in the modern game are Claudio Ranieri, who's at Roma, and that's kind of a deep dig there for me, right? But I think it's a fantastic manager. And then Carlo Ancelotti is the only one who I think still continues to do that. Granted, he's got a wonderful group of players to work with there in Madrid, but those two guys really come to mind. I don't see a lot of it elsewhere, right? So I'm not saying this is like an Ange Postecoglou specific problem, but I'm tired of Ange and other managers saying, I don't have the players to play my system. Ruben Amorim comes to mind. I don't have the players to play my system.
Eventually.
Well, then don't fucking play your system, bro. If you don't have the players to play your system, like, I don't know, right? That's kind of where I'm at with things. And so I just feel like Ange's system is maybe, I want to say broken, but I don't ever think it like worked necessarily, right? I think he was found out pretty early. To be more specific, I think I see things like Son constantly on the touch line and Udogie inverted. Udogie's much better on the touch line. Son's much better inverted, right? So we just continue to like stuff these guys into these roles. I look at the fact that we have no patterns of progression like we talked about earlier at all, right? Our midfield, we've got good midfielders. We're deep in the midfield, but we can't progress the football. That's on the manager. We talk a lot about Solanke not scoring goals. I've heard people say I'm really tired of Solanke not being in the box for crosses. Yep. That's because he's asked to be a deep lying forward, and his wingers and his fullbacks around him are expected to be the final product, right? So it's not on Dom Solanke for not being in the box when a cross comes in. It's on Ange Postecoglou. The only way that we can score goals is if we can somehow progress the football far enough off the field to find Brennan Johnson, who squares across to the back post. That's the only way.
Or the other way around.
Yeah, exactly.
Johnson's at the back post.
Yep, 100%. Now, I think it's more the former than the latter, but I agree with you. I think that's the only way that we're finding goals, and that's a problem. We're very easy to beat. I've said it a million times on this show. You shut down our inverted fullbacks, you funnel the press so that they receive the ball, you win the ball off them, and you're fucking in every single time, and I'm just really tired of it. So, yeah, I'm firmly Ange out. I'm going to get off my soapbox. I'm going to stop whining. Robbie, where are you at with this? Are you Ange in, Ange out? We're just going to ask the question directly.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, I'm out, but and I'm not defending him and saying I wish he would stay, but it's to me, it's yet another cycle of Tottenham where we've learned nothing, and we haven't. We've hired another manager, and like the takeaway from this is going to be Daniel Levy going, well, we spent all that money and it didn't work, so see, we shouldn't spend all that money on players. Like that's exactly what we're going to learn from this. Is Daniel Levy's going to go, well, we signed too many players and changed too many things up, so we shouldn't do that anymore. And it's not going to be anything else. Like we just haven't learned anything, and the fans haven't learned anything. The media, we're stuck in media hell for the rest of existence. No, Tottenham is every joke. Tottenham is every punchline. Tottenham is every media member taking a shit on them. And Ange brought that up, and it's totally fair and true. I just, this is now the, I don't know, third time in the last 6 years where I've just had a come to Jesus moment. Like, do I want to keep doing this as a Tottenham supporter? Like, I'm already there again. Like this summer, it's going to hinge on who we hire as a manager. Like if we if we don't make an inspiring hire, I might be just like, hey, if I'm going to wake up at 6 a.m. to watch football, it's not going to be Tottenham. They'll always be my English sweethearts, but like, man, this club is just in the mud forever at this point, unless ownership changes. So I just don't think there's a path forward, no matter who we hire. I don't think there's a single name out there that you could show me that would make me go like, oh yeah, that's going to work. And when I say name, I mean realistic name. You cannot tell me we're going to hire Inter's manager. You cannot tell me we're going to hire Ancelotti. You can't tell me we're going to hire some guy from a 10th place Serie A team, and I'm supposed to get excited about that. I'm not. I won't be. So
you both know there's only one guy who I want managing this club, and we're not even going to have that conversation. But he keeps a bowl of lemons on his desk.
I want him too. But yeah, on the Ange point, it's just like like Scott said, it doesn't work. His tactical style, his structure, everything he's doing right now is not working. It's worked in the past when he is at Celtic and they can spend more money than the rest of the league. Cool, nice, bro. Like, I mean, I think any of the three of us could have won a league title with Celtic. I'm not even being facetious about that.
I tend to agree. I'd back myself to win the.
And then Japan, Australia, like those leagues are so far below the level that that Tottenham is playing at right now. No offense to people who support those teams, but the managers that Ange was managing against, yeah, he might be the best manager to come out of the Australian league, but how many managers come out of the Australian league and actually rise to the top? Robbie in the chat, where does Ange finish in the MLS? If he's managing the Sounders, I think low-key, I think he'd do well. He would dominate the MLS. They would be so baffled by what was going on.
Yeah.
But besides the point, Tottenham, we're never going to give him 20 players in a window like Celtic to completely change the team.
Yeah.
We're never going to be the ones to spend the most, and it's not going to work with his system. And the reason that Ange has bugged me so much, like I think maybe Chang and I over the course of the podcast, like we've been on the more skeptical side. Like even back in like January, I was like, okay, I'm still Ange in, but like we're getting knocked out of Liverpool. Like I was really mad. I think you two were much more level headed about that. But the thing is that the way he speaks in the media is just so annoying and just so arrogant to me for a manager that has won nothing. Like literally all his career accolades mean absolutely nothing to me. And he's talking like he was Jose Mourinho or Conte when they were here at Spurs. I get it might be the same problems, but the arrogance in which he speaks about his tactical system and like the way he runs his team, and he just seems like he's always right. And then giving stick to the fans on offsides goals against Chelsea. We didn't have a podcast for that, but cupping his ear to the, like, you are a nobody. He is a nobody. And once he leaves this job, I'd guarantee that he's going to be a great manager in Portugal, but he's never going to be able to succeed at the highest level unless he's at a team that will give him all the money in the world and the more money than the whole rest of the league. But other than that, it's just not going to work. And the arrogance that he has is the main reason why I just can't stand him anymore. I just really can't stand him.
I low-key could see him. I'm not saying this will happen at all, right? I'm just saying hypothetically, I could see him going to City and running the table at City, right?
I could see that just because of the investment, but
exactly.
I don't know. At this point, like, would City appoint him? Like, I know Pep is a big fan, but like at this point, it hasn't worked to a degree in which like it's insane. Like we are going to get 17th place. It's like, is he going to even be a candidate for any big jobs, or is he going to fuck off back to Australia and we're never going to hear from him again? I think that higher percentage goes with the latter.
I mean, I think he'll get a decent job somewhere. And I want to set the record straight for myself. I do not think Ange Postecoglou is a bad manager. I think he's a good dude. I think that, like I just said, he could go to a city and run the table, but he is not adaptable enough to manage Tottenham Hotspur Football Club because we have to be adaptable. That is the only way that we're going to win. In the Poch days, Poch adapted. People said Poch never had a plan B. He absolutely had a plan B. He switched his entire system in 16 and 17, and we got 96 or 86 points, right? In the year that he totally changes to a system he'd never used before. So that's the type of manager that we need, someone who can adapt, someone who can adjust. This is going to sound like absolutely wild, but if let's just say hypothetically Spurs came out and said we're appointing Claudio Ranieri as a manager, I would be ecstatic. I would say wonderful. Somebody who can come in, assess the squad, change the tactics based on who they're playing every week, based on the squad that's available to them. I'm not saying we hire Claudio Ranieri, but we just need that profile, that type of manager. I don't know who that is. I'm a massive fan of Vincenzo Italiano, who's currently at Bologna. You guys know that, but I always have an Italian bias. We'll see. We're not going to talk about who we hire and all of that. We're over an hour at this point, but yeah, sounds like we're all thinking that the Ange experiment is over. I have a really good friend, Caroline Stefko. You can find her at CG Stefko. She also has a wonderful, I'll give her a plug quick, a wonderful weekly newsletter called Spurs Across the Pond. Sign up for her. You'll get a weekly email or whatever when she puts her newsletter out, but she really knows her stuff. And I asked her maybe a month ago, Caroline, because she got really fed up with both Conte and Mourinho's attitude in the press, right? And I asked Caroline, I said, Caroline, if Ange Postecoglou had carried the arrogance of a Conte or a Mourinho, would you be ready to sack him and be done? And she said, excellent question. I would be, right? And so I think the whole point of that conversation was that right now, I think anyone who's still Ange in is Ange the person in, right? But maybe not Ange the tactician in, right? Because I think we gave him a longer leash than he probably deserved when it comes to results, because we just really liked who he was, right? Yep. And we got to a point where Spurs broke him and he'd had enough. And every single press conference and every post-match interview, he's fiery, he's biting heads off. He's clearly over it. I can't even fault him for that, right? I just want to get that out there too. But I think it's over. And it's over. So we'll see what happens. I personally think that even if we win Europa League, it's over. Max had the hot take, or what we say is maybe a warm take, that Ange could just walk away at the end of the season. I think that's quite realistic to hypothesize, right? So anyways, we'll see. Before we wrap up too, as always, we want to thank our partners, the Wits End and Finney Ridge. We want to thank Rainier Growlers and Cascades down in Puyallup. If you're on the south side of the sound, get to either Rainier Growlers or Cascades. Make sure you're following Seattle Spurs. They will tell you which of our homes is going to be open for matches right down on the south side. And if you're in the Seattle metro or the Seattle proper area, we could say, or anywhere north, make sure you get to Cascades and Finney Ridge. We appreciate everything they do for us. They are our official sponsors for the Academy Watch and the Loan Watch. Max, it's been a minute since we've recorded. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but do you have anything you want to go over from Academy and or loan perspective?
Academy Watch U18 Premier League U18 Premier League Cup final hat trick for Luca Williams-Barnett. The 18s take it home, baby. Another trophy for our academy. We keep cooking. We did the double last year, did the double the year before, and now we're grabbing one for the U18s. This year, yeah, like Robbie alluded to earlier, that Barca rebuild with literally no money to spend, like they're playing 7 academy players in the starting lineup. Can we do something like that? I mean, our academy has been cooking. And we really want to see those guys break through the first team. Luca Williams-Barnett. It is almost summertime, my favorite time of the year for Spurs, because we get to watch all the boys cook in friendlies, and Luca Williams-Barnett will definitely be the guy to watch from the academy this year. If it was Mikey Moore last year, it's Luca this year. He's been so good for the 18s this year. And then Loan Watch, Notts County loanee George Abbott, League 2 Young Player of the Season nominee. Shout out to George. He's had an awesome loan, fullback and center mid. He's played more center mid 6 for Notts County this year, and he's had a wonderful loan, playing almost every minute for them. So he's definitely going to be a lot more developed playing men's football for a whole year. He's still only 18. So yeah, watch for him in the summer, and I really hope he can bring that home, because that would be sick. Having him on a successful loan, Keeley and Donley as well, at Leyton Orient, having successful loans in England, and it's always nice to see the boys cooking in the lower divisions. I've heard Ashley Phillips on loan at Stoke. The Stoke fans love him. Lancashire, I think he's picked it up a bit. West Brom fans on Twitter, they're kind of mixed, but I think at the start it was rougher. Now they're turning more positive. So I always like when we get loans in England, because that's really like it is tiered system. So they kind of mimic each other, although it's a completely different game in the Prem, but still English men's football. That's where the physicality is, that's where players really start to develop. So it's good to see people growing. So shout out George Abbott for that. And definitely watch out for him this summer.
Yeah, I love that shot. I'm just going to say, make no mistake about it. When these teenagers go and perform in League One, League Two, it's really something to be said. You have just like burly grown men in those leagues who are fighting for their lives each and every week. It's super physical. So to be able to go in as a 17-year-old and 18-year-old, whatever it is, and perform with those grown 30-year-old men in League Two, League One, whatever it is, it's something that shouldn't be snuffed at or whatever. So I'm really excited to see what Abbott can do and the rest of the group. I agree with Luca Williams-Barnett. I think it's could be his time to shine in the near future. I'm also going to take a second to say, why are we not playing Mikey more when it comes to these young players? And we never know what's going on behind the scenes, but he was on the rise and it just completely flatlined. And I know he got ill, but even after he came back from that illness,
he
bagged his first goal, right? And he looked really good. And so I don't know, just maybe
that's another problem I've had with the treatment of Moore. Just doesn't make sense to me.
Agreed.
It's like, yeah, we get it. Like, we wanted him to train for a year. We had injuries, so we had to play him. He played well, I thought. Yeah. So why would you just stop that once everyone came back? Like, I don't know. We're not at training. So I don't want to be hypocritical. Like I said, we don't see what Son says in the dressing room. We don't see what happens at training. But, dude, there's been so much evidence for Mikey just being absolutely class. So it's going to be a big summer for him. I don't know how many more minutes he's going to get this season, which is really sad to say. After the trajectory he was on earlier this year.
Yeah, good job. All right, well, that's going to do it for us with Emerald and Lilywhite. This has been episode 42, the Will Lancashire episode, as Robbie so astutely pointed out earlier in the show. We appreciate everybody who's tuned in today. Again, you can find me at Scott G. Bird. You can find Max at Going Limbs. You can find Robbie at Robbie_Light. You can find us at And Lilywhite on all platforms. You can find Seattle Spurs. We are the official podcast of Seattle Spurs, the official YouTube channel of Seattle Spurs. You can find Seattle Spurs at Seattle Spurs on all platforms. Sign up for the Seattle Spurs weekly Gmail. I cannot stress that enough. It will give you all kinds of information around not only Seattle Spurs, and that's watch parties, very importantly, right, as well as holiday parties. You're also going to get a lot of Spurs information that's super important to have in your inbox. Shout out to Steve, who worked so hard to make that happen, our chairman, Steve Smiley. Steve, we love and appreciate everything you do, but make sure you sign up for the Seattle Spurs Gmail. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're not here to beg and ask for likes and subscriptions, but it really helps us grow the Emerald and Lilywhite platform, which in turn helps us grow Seattle Spurs. And that's the point of all of this, is to make sure that Tottenham Hotspur has the largest grip on the Seattle soccer scene that it possibly can. So make sure you like and subscribe, share with your friends, bring your friends to the pub, continue to grow that community. And as always, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.